There is a plant that produces more protein per acre than any pasture. Farmers have fed it to pigs for 500 years. You cut it to the ground. 6 weeks later, it stands 3 feet tall again. Then you cut it again and again. 4 to 5 harvests per season from one planting. It never needs replanting. It returns every spring, forever. This is Comfrey. Welcome back to Secrets Beneath Nature. Subscribe and drop a comment below. Have you ever seen Comfrey growing wild near you? Walk on to any small farm in England during the 1950s. You would see something strange. Green plants standing 3 feet tall in dedicated beds near the pig pens. Farmers cutting armloads of broad, fuzzy leaves. Pigs rushing to the fence line at the sound of the blade. This was Comfrey, and for centuries across Europe and Asia, this scene repeated on thousands of farms. In Russia, they called it Zivikost. The word translates to bone healer. Soviet collective farms documented Comfrey feeding trials from the 1930s through the 1960s. Agricultural scientists in Moscow recorded pigs consuming up to 20 kilograms of fresh Comfrey daily. The animals gained weight. The feed costs dropped. The reports filled filing cabinets in agricultural ministries. In Japan, farmers integrated Comfrey into what Masanobu Fukuoka would later call natural farming. Small holdings outside Osaka and Kyoto maintained Comfrey patches specifically for pig supplementation. The knowledge passed from generation to generation through practice rather than textbooks. In England, a man named Lawrence D. Hills spent 40 years proving what traditional farmers already knew. Hills founded the Henry Doubleday Research Association in 1954. He established trial gardens at Bocking in Essex. He tested Comfrey varieties systematically. He documented yields and he recorded protein content. He developed the cultivar now known as Bocking 14. This single variety would become the most important Comfrey for livestock feeding ever created. The research exists, the feeding trials were conducted, and the results were documented. Then the filing cabinets closed. Comfrey produces 18 to 25% crude protein on a dry matter basis. This matches alfalfa, and it exceeds most pasture grasses. It even rivals the soybean meal that modern farmers purchase at commodity prices. The protein is not the only story. The amino acid profile includes lysine at levels that specifically address pig dietary requirements. Pigs are not ruminants. They cannot efficiently digest cellulose like cattle can, but Comfrey offers a protein structure and digestibility that monogastric animals actually thrive on. Picture a Comfrey plant from the side. Above ground, you see broad leaves covered in fine hairs. The plant reaches 2 to 3 feet at maturity. But below ground, the real machinery operates. Comfrey taproots penetrate 6 to 10 feet into the earth, and those are deep roots. While your pasture grasses compete for nutrients in the top 6 inches of soil, Comfrey mines treasure from depths your tractor never reaches. Those deep roots access mineral deposits that shallow-rooted crops cannot touch. Potassium concentrations in Comfrey leaves reach 5 to 8% of dry weight. Calcium hits 1 to 2%. Phosphorus accumulates. Trace minerals concentrate. The plant functions as a biological pump, drawing fertility from the subsoil and depositing it in leaves that you harvest and feed to your pigs. The production numbers make commercial crops look modest. A well-established Comfrey bed yields 80 to 120 tons of fresh matter per acre per year. No irrigation required once the roots establish. No annual replanting. No seed purchases. One decision by one farmer creates infrastructure that produces for 20 years or more. Stay until the end of this video. I will show you exactly how to establish this permanent feed system on your land. But first, you need to understand why you have never heard of it. The suppression of Comfrey was not a conspiracy. It was something more effective. It was economics operating exactly as designed. Follow the money backward from your local feed store. The bag of pig feed on the shelf connects to a supply chain. Corn from Iowa, soybeans from Brazil, processing facilities in multiple states, transportation networks spanning continents. Each link in that chain employs people. Each link generates revenue. Each link creates quarterly earnings for shareholders. Now consider Comfrey. You buy root cuttings once. You plant them once. You harvest 4 to 5 times per year for 2 decades. Where is the repeat revenue? Where is the annual seed sale? Where is the processing margin? Where is the transportation fee? The answer is nowhere. Comfrey generates no recurring transactions. A plant that replaces itself cannot support a supply chain. After World War II, the industrialization of agriculture accelerated across America and Europe. Corn and soybean lobbies shaped agricultural policy. Extension services received funding from input suppliers. Land-grant universities built partnerships with industry. The institutions that educated farmers became dependent on the companies selling to farmers. When the companies selling feed also fund the research about feeding, certain questions stop being asked, certain plants stop being studied, certain knowledge stops being transmitted. The Henry Doubleday Research Association continued its work at Bocking. Lawrence Hills published books and pamphlets. Small farmers in England maintained their comfrey beds. But the mainstream agricultural establishment looked elsewhere. The filing cabinet stayed closed. The knowledge remained in the margins. Then came the pyrrolizidine alkaloid controversy. In the 1970s and the 1980s, researchers identified compounds called pyrrolizidine alkaloids in comfrey plants. These compounds can cause liver damage under specific conditions. Headlines spread. Warnings were issued. Comfrey developed a reputation as dangerous. But examine the research closely. The studies focused on human internal consumption. They examined people eating comfrey leaves directly or drinking comfrey root tea. They used species with high alkaloid content. They administered concentrated extracts at dosages no traditional use ever approached. Livestock metabolism differs significantly from human metabolism. Pigs process plant compounds through different pathways. Feeding trials conducted over decades showed no liver damage at recommended inclusion rates. The research that condemned comfrey studied the wrong species, in the wrong application, at the wrong dosages. But the headline spread. The context did not. Lawrence Hills anticipated this problem. His 40 years of breeding work at Bocking produced a specific solution. Bocking 14 Comfrey contains significantly lower pyrrolizidine alkaloid levels than wild species. The alkaloids concentrate primarily in roots, not leaves. Proper feeding protocol uses leaf matter, not root material. The cultivar and the method together address the safety concern that regulators raised. The guide at the end of this video explains exactly which cultivar to grow and why it matters for your pigs. The research validating comfrey never disappeared. It simply stopped being promoted. Search agricultural databases today. You will find the Soviet feeding trials. You will find the Bocking data. You will find studies from Korean agricultural universities documenting comfrey integration with livestock systems. The knowledge exists in scattered archives across 3 continents. In 2008, researchers at the National Institute of Animal Science in South Korea published findings on comfrey supplementation in pig diets. Growth rates improved. Feed conversion ratios shifted favorably. The economics made sense on paper. The paper joined thousands of others that practicing farmers never see. Joel Salatin at Polyface Farm in Virginia integrated comfrey into his pasture management system. Mark Shepard documented comfrey in his restoration agriculture protocols across Wisconsin. Sepp Holzer grew comfrey on his mountain farm in Austria at elevations where conventional agriculture fails. The permaculture movement rediscovered what industrial agriculture forgot. These farmers share a common observation. Pigs take to comfrey faster than expected. Introduce it gradually over 2 weeks. Within a month, the animals recognize the sound of cutting. They come running when harvest begins. Modern small farms from Vermont to New Zealand now maintain dedicated comfrey beds for pig supplementation. Social media groups share feeding protocols. Online nurseries sell Bocking 14 root cuttings. The knowledge is returning not because anyone is selling it, but because it works. Here is the complete protocol that farmers have used for centuries. The same system that fed pigs before the feed industry existed. Start with cultivar selection. This matters more than any other decision. Bocking 14 is a sterile hybrid. It produces no viable seed. It spreads only through root division. You control exactly where it grows. Wild comfrey and common comfrey self-seed aggressively and contain higher alkaloid levels. Bocking 14 was bred specifically for livestock feeding. Accept no substitutes. Source your root cuttings from reputable permaculture nurseries. Verify the cultivar before you buy. For planting, choose early spring or fall. The soil should be workable but not waterlogged. Dig holes 3 to 6 inches deep. Space plants 3 feet apart in dedicated beds. If you prefer row cultivation for mechanical management, space rows 4 feet apart. Drop 1 root cutting per hole. Cover with soil. Water thoroughly at planting. Now comes the hard part. Your first year requires patience. Do not harvest anything during the establishment season. Let the plants grow unchecked. Let them flower if they want to. Let the roots descend into the subsoil. They are building the foundation for 20 years of harvests. Cutting too early weakens the root system and reduces long-term productivity. Your patience in year 1 creates permanent infrastructure. Beginning in the second year, harvest when plants reach 2 to 3 feet in height. Use a sharp blade or sickle. Cut the stems 2 inches above ground level. Leave that stubble for regrowth. The crown will send up new shoots within days. 6 weeks later, cut again. In most temperate climates, you will harvest 4 to 5 times per season. Each cutting produces substantial biomass, and each cutting feeds your pigs. Each cutting costs you nothing but labor. Harvest. After cutting, wilt the comfrey for 24 to 48 hours before feeding. Spread the leaves in a shaded area with good airflow. Wilting reduces moisture content from around 85% to roughly 70%. This concentrates nutrients and makes the feed easier for pigs to consume in volume. Fresh feeding works, but wilted feeding proves more practical. Wilting. For pig feeding integration, start slow. Introduce comfrey gradually over 2 weeks. Begin at 5% of the daily ration. Increase incrementally as the pigs adapt. Maximum inclusion rate ranges from 15 to 20% of the total diet. Comfrey works best as a supplement to a balanced ration rather than a sole feed source. Slow young pigs benefit from chopped or shredded comfrey. Mature pigs handle whole leaves without difficulty. Never ferment or ensile comfrey for pigs. The fermentation process that works for ruminant feeds does not suit monogastric digestion. Fresh or wilted, never fermented. Never calculate your establishment scale based on your herd size. 10 plants provide supplemental feeding for 1 pig. 25 to 30 plants per pig enable significant diet replacement. A bed of 50 plants feeds a small homestead operation indefinitely. Do the math on feed costs over 20 years. Compare that to the price of 20 root cuttings. The numbers work in only one direction. 10. The feed industry will not tell you this. The Extension Service probably will not mention it. The agricultural university curriculum does not include it. But the plant does not care about curriculum. It cares about reproduction. It cares about growing. It cares about establishing itself wherever soil and sunlight permit. The plant. Comfrey grew in European monastery gardens during the medieval period. It fed livestock across Asia before industrial agriculture existed. It survived being ignored by the most powerful food system in human history. And it is still here, still growing, still producing 20% protein in its leaves, still returning every spring without being asked. Still, a farmer in Somerset, England, maintains a comfrey bed that his grandfather planted in 1932. 3 generations of pigs have eaten from those same roots. No replanting, no purchasing, no dependence on supply chains that can break. No. Picture your own farm 5 years from now. A established comfrey bed along the fence line. Pigs who know the sound of harvest. Feed costs reduced by 15 to 20%. Infrastructure that requires no annual input purchases. Resilience that does not depend on distant suppliers. Picture your farm 20 years from now. The same bed still producing. Your children managing the harvest. Knowledge transmitted through practice rather than purchase. Independence built into the landscape itself. 20 years. This is what self-sufficiency actually looks like. Not bunkers and freeze-dried meals. Not supplements shipped from factories across oceans. Self-sufficiency is a plant that returns every spring without asking. A plant that feeds your animals and medicines your soil and replants itself while you sleep. Self-sufficiency. What cannot be sold annually cannot support quarterly earnings. What farmers grow themselves cannot support supply chains. Comfrey threatened the business model that modern agriculture depends on, so modern agriculture simply stopped talking about it. Comfrey. But you know now. You know the protein content matches commercial feeds. You know the root system mines minerals from depths that shallow crops cannot reach. You know the production exceeds 80 tons per acre per year. You know that Bocking 14 addresses the safety concerns that regulators raised. You know that feeding trials across 3 continents documented success. You know that you can establish permanent feed infrastructure with 20 root cuttings and 2 seasons of patience. The plant does not care about feed companies. It does not care about quarterly reports. It does not care about supply chain margins. It cares about growing, and it will be here long after supply chains are gone. Your great-grandchildren could harvest what you plant this spring. That is the only investment advice that matters. Subscribe to Secrets Beneath Nature. Watch the next video to discover more secrets hidden beneath nature.